20 LCK Spring. It's me, Valdez, and LS, bringing you the remote broadcast from all the houses in Korea. The pro gamers are there, we're there, and we are bringing you more League of Legends here in the LCK. And we did just have a 2-0 go to Sandbox over Afrika, which was kind of unexpected. And now we're getting into a couple of matches that we mentioned earlier should also be pretty one-sided, LS.
Yeah, I definitely think that T1 is going to be favored, obviously, coming into this match. Although we said that about Afrika in the previous series, we also said it about Damwon yesterday. And honestly, could this be the start of an upset week here in the LCK? I'm not so sure. APK taking on T1 today. T1 is using their substitute jungler, which that could maybe come back to bite them, or perhaps they have something special in store. We'll have to take a look, though, at the drafts when we do go into the game. So far, drafts have been proven to be quite important so far here in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty important from what we have seen. You are 10 out of 10 in terms of predictions on which drafts will come out ahead, regardless of team. And as we have seen that even with the upset, you did call that Sandbox's draft should be winning both of those times, and they ended up winning there. So we do have the points of the match here. Reclaim the first. T1 got interrupted after a 6-series win streak by Afrika, by the way. It's time to come back. APK, aggressive and proactive king. What do they have in store to take on the higher team, T1?
They're going to need something. They're really going to need a special, I don't even know, approach to this series, because they're outmatched quite actually everywhere. Every single role they are outmatched. And so the way that they would obviously find a victory is probably through something completely unexpected, or just getting lucky inside of the games and then riding it out with some good plays. So T1 solid mid-late game, shaky early game, but that's all right. Early games, not a lot really happens here in the LCK. Did T1 overcome their weakness during the 2-week break? We will take a look. Kim, considering adding more diversity to the lineup in round 2, time to find out what the new lineup is. And obviously, I think that is alluding to the fact that Elim or Ilim don't totally... Elim? Okay.
Elim?
Ellen?
Like Elim, because
wrong show, Valdez.
No, not Ellen. Yeah. Elim, I think, is what we should call him. I mean, you're going to end up calling him whatever you want to call him, because you're LS. But anyway, guys, we do have some stats here. KDA for T1 up at the top. Where are they at? Second and second. High team damage per minute. So T1 used to play a bit more of a passive style way back when, but things have changed here. And you can see down at the bottom when they have a win rate at, or a gold lead at 25 minutes, they do end up winning the game the majority of the time.
Yeah, and that is a very high percentage. As you can see, though, APK first Herald percentage, they are first in the entire league at 65% capture rate, as T1 is actually lowest. And honestly, I really don't mind that being super low or anything, because Herald is something that I feel like a lot of people do overvalue. However, here in patch 10.5, the turret plates do give back more gold. So they're back up to 160, which does mean that you can potentially earn a bit more money off of Herald, but I feel like a lot of teams, they miss lane swap, and they end up actually losing out even though they end up capturing the Herald. And sometimes it just doesn't end up doing anything, especially if turret plates had already fallen. And so that is the one stat that APK does have over T1. We'll see what it can end up meaning here today. Team damage per minute, though, they are really close as we're taking a look at the lineup. Kana, Ilim, Elim, Ellen, Faker, Teddy, and Effort is going to be the lineup here for T1 today. And I think a lot of people are probably surprised, given that Cuz has been playing phenomenally here in Spring 2020.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of just mixing up the lineup, giving some of the younger players a chance to show what they got, especially against some of the weaker teams in the LCK. This is not too surprising, I would say, that they would just, you know, try some of their other players and see what fits. Maybe he does really well. Maybe they give him a chance in future games here. I don't think this is going to be a permanent switch or anything like that, as we are going to have the APK lineup here. Ixu, Flawless, Cover, Hybrid, and Secret.
Yeah, and we'll see what kind of edges maybe APK can look to try to get Cover. He was someone that we criticized heavily when he came out in the last series, but then he ended up shutting us up pretty quickly. He had really good play in that last series, redeemed himself since the promotion series in 2019, where he really looked like the weakest link on his team. But APK coming here today, Ixu up there in top lane, has lost a little bit of power. 10.5, the change to the support item, does mean that some of the wonky strategies that you could do up there in top with Soraka, Zillion, and Karma, things of that nature, he might not have access to some of them today, but we'll see if he has anything else creative. Key player matchup here, Hybrid versus Teddy. Hybrid actually second in the league behind Teddy in terms of damage per minute. He really likes to fight.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not the right thing to do, and sometimes he dies a bunch for it. As you can see, though, Teddy's stats quite impressive. Highest in the league for AD carries for CS per minute, and up towards the top there for damage per minute and KDA at the same time. And then third for the bottom two stats. So obviously Teddy, one of the big carries here for the side of T1, as we will hop into the pick ban here for game number 1 with T1 on the blue side.
Well, let's see what the draft has in store for us and what type of things we can get going. T1 opening with a Volibear ban. They might just try to heavily focus Ixu on the blue side ban, basically saying that, you know what, none of the meta bans really mean anything for us, as Set is going to be banned away. Varus is also going to end up biting the dust, as Senna now going to be removed by APK. Aphelios and Ornn and Kalista are all still on the table, and you know who has one of the best Kalistas in the entire world? I've heard that it's T1 Teddy.
Yeah, I've heard, and I've seen, and I have become scared of it. I think if they don't ban Kalista, that is a big mistake. I'd rather let Ornn through, to be honest. And T1 is not going to ban one of those three that you did mention, so two of them are going to come out here. Senna and Ornn, both available. Or well, not Senna.
Kalista.
Kalista. Even
now,
scarier.
APK could be thinking, okay, go ahead and pick Ornn, and then we'll pick Alawi. And that wouldn't be that bad of a trade-off if you're APK. Alawi,
no.
Really good.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, nice troll comment. That was
I think
good.
Everyone sort of had a heart attack for a second.
It worked on me. I got trolled, for sure.
Okay. As Lulu and Rek'Sai are going to be picked up right away by APK. That's a very interesting and bizarre R1, R2 out of APK. Now, Lulu's able to be flexed 3 roles. Rek'Sai obviously going to be the jungler. T1 now looking to self-counterpick themselves by picking the Jarvan into a champion that has a knock-up that interrupts Jarvan, a polymorph which invalidates him, and a Rek'Sai which naturally counters him in a vacuum. So, very peculiar. They're pairing it in isolation with the Rumble, and so this is a very surface-level 1-2 punch. Like, this is a really bread and butter combo. We're just going to pick it regardless of how it interacts with your team.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen sometimes before for stronger teams up against weaker teams, if they feel like they can just play kind of a simpler, more straightforward style. And especially for Elim, who we haven't seen him, so they want to get him on comfort and make sure he knows what he's doing. Give him the Jarvan and say, okay, play the comfort. It's a self-counter, but I'm sure you've played this matchup many times before. And we'll put Faker or Arcana onto a Rumble to add some synergy between the two champions. As we'll take a look at some of the bans here. LeBlanc going to be taken away from Faker. I think not banning away LeBlanc from Faker is always a mistake, as he is the scariest LeBlanc I've ever seen.
Well, let's see what else is going to transpire here as APK. I mean, their R1 through R3 is perfectly set up to answer T1's B1 through B3. So, coming into the second ban phase here, T1 is really behind in the draft phase. Now, whether or not that means anything relative to the team discrepancy in terms of just sheer skill and ability that a lot of people are expecting T1 to come in and sort of dominate this game has yet to be seen, but we'll also see how this draft rounds out. We've seen many a times teams can just punt leads away in the draft phase when it gets to the second round of picks, as Zoe bites the dust now as well.
Yeah, gonna target that against Faker once again, as Xayah gonna be taken off the board here, targeting out Hybrid a couple of times. And Hybrid says, why not Ezreal alongside of what should be the Lulu down there in the bottom lane. And they are going to lock it in.
Here we go. As now, again, Lulu is a flex pick. Lulu can definitely be flexed top and support here. As T1 now hovering Caitlyn. And nope, they're going back to the Taric, and the Taric's a really interesting choice, so it really does funnel into the all-in mono-red type of aggression, and that might be Faker's Nico.
Oh boy.
Which a lot of people, fresh in their memory, they might have the Faker F key clip in their mind. If you know which one I'm talking about from Worlds.
Yeah.
But that is going to be Faker's Nico. This is very all-in and aggressive, and so APK, they need... You know, honestly, Alawi isn't bad here at all. Alawi is completely fine in a spot like this if Ixu does want to take it. Another option, I suppose... That's not Alawi. And, in fact, that is a champion that rewards what T1 is trying to achieve. And so... This is what I was talking about the whole punting away thing. They got the Ezreal, and yes, the Ezreal, high mobility, good against the Jarvan, good against the Rumble, but he's going to struggle down there in bot lane, and then in addition to that, obviously the Nico comes in, and it provides many ways to actually slow him down and provide ways for other teammates to get onto him. And so, even though T1's team composition was straight up and it had potential to get answered very easily by APK, APK punt away on B4, B5, and they pick two champions that thematically don't answer what T1's trying to do very well. And it's going to end up becoming the Ezreal and Azir show, but with a lot more emphasis on the Azir. And things are going to get really scary. If T1 gets ahead, it's only on cover in the Azir to somehow try to stabilize the game. There is no insurance policies on APK. Obviously, Ezreal wants to get to 4 or 5 items. Probably going to go Iceborne Gauntlet this game. That'll give him some more ability down in bot lane, but it's really scary. And I was so close to giving the draft edge to APK, but
yeah.
I'm you know what? This is Tom Brady leaving the Patriots. We're gonna give the draft edge to T1.
And it does feel like that. A couple of wayward picks there towards the end, and we get to see Faker back onto the Nico. From what I remember from his Nico play, always used that passive ability very well. Better than anyone really that I have seen play on this champion. He'll always be trying to trick you by going in and out of vision, pretending to be other people. And yeah, we'll see if that works out here in this game as we're going to hop into match 50. Game number 1, SKT up against APK.
Alright, well, we'll see what kind of a start is going on here in this game.
Hey, it's Rumble.
What?
the
Meldas.
The Rumble in the mid lane, what do you mean?
What do you think of that Lulu skin?
I can't see it.
It's the Aqua Luna. She looks like Tentacruel.
It's not the Frost
You
one?
are deprived.
Isn't that the Frost
what
one?
you are. It's totally fine. Dr. Eggman here in mid lane as an imposter against Azir. And both teams just basically did a 5-point start. No one looking to get aggressive at all or do anything too fancy. As there's Faker. Stats on Nico, 6-1, 85.7% win rate. Looking to get the 7th win here in this game number 1 between the two teams. Take a look at the runes. There's a Scorch on the Azir, Scorch as well on the Rumble. Everything else across the board looking pretty standard. We're going to have to see what itemization is elected for in terms of the Ezreal. Will he go the Iceborne or will he go the Trinity Force? Things can get pretty scary in that regard. Ultimate Hunter on the Rumble, by the way.
Yeah. He's going to be looking to cast that ultimate as much as possible. Obviously, a bit of a game changer for Rumble. And I'm just excited to see Teddy back onto this pick. His effort goes in for a little bit of a trade, but not much else going to happen down here. Certainly Faker's Nico, Teddy's Callista, all of these things to be highlighted. But we do have to talk about how APK has been impressing us. Actually, level 2 is going to be hit down here on the bottom side. Secret in a lot of trouble, actually. I think he's got to flash. No, he's just going to heal. Will be okay, but nicely done by T1 to get that summoner. But APK as a team have been, you know, they're, what are they, 2-7 so far, not the best record, but it doesn't really tell the whole story of what this team has been able to accomplish and prove to us.
Right, and a lot of their games have looked much closer and cleaner than some of the other teams in LCK, and so even though their score is really struggling to look impressive, it's the manner in which they're winning and losing their games that is really most impressive. Now, obviously, a lot of that on the back of some of their very wonky drafts. They do some pretty trickster-level stuff with Ixu up there in the top lane, as well as whenever they bring in Trigger. And the AD carry role has played the Morgana a couple of times. And T1, I mean, here in this game, they have a really explosive mid-game team composition that's really difficult to sort of resist. And so we'll see what ends up transpiring. So far, Teddy down there on the Callista. He has Barrier. Ezreal does have Teleport. So that is something that you have to keep in mind when looking at the CS charts. The camera keeps panning every which way, but not a lot is really going on. Jarvan is going to move over. He's going to get back to clearing. But T1, remember, in the points of the match, they have a weak early game as a stat. They don't tend to really make anything happen. So all that I would expect is the laners to sort of just play ping pong and go defensive, blow for blow with one another, and then eventually transition into team fights around objectives and just play it out like that.
Yeah, no need to get over-aggressive here in this early game. Of course, in the LCK, the Glacial Augment is going to be the choice here for Faker on his Nico. The catch potential on that champion, of course, is pretty fun. I remember when Nico first came out, I really enjoyed playing her before she got nerfed quite a lot. And finally, she's back on the buff table, essentially, of Riot. It's fun to see. Maybe I'll pick her up again, but Faker, obviously someone who's got a decent amount of experience on this pick already. 6-1, I believe it was the win rate. Having a good time so far. Secret actually trying to freeze the lead. Teddy and Effort gonna say no to that.
Well, Flawless is in close proximity at the Gromp, but this is around the time where Teddy's probably just going to shove in this last wave and then look to recall. So there shouldn't be any real gank timing. Every lane is, for the most part, going pretty even. I mean, we see Cover potentially getting solo killed here. Not quite in the end. It's just going to be forced back and have to recall. Faker did already use his teleport, took a bit of damage, and also went through all 3 of his corrupting potions. And so even though he's going to be full HP... what?
Yeah, he flashed. He was really concerned about getting slowed by the missile. And so he decided, yeah, I'm just going to flash. I'm just going to play it safe.
I mean, he could wait for Jarvan to commit in order to waste more time and then flash the Jarvan flag. Because without... Rumble is never going to be able to follow up on anything there. And then, potentially, you have Jarvan actually share XP with Rumble. Just a very peculiar decision right there. Faker did transform into the Rumble as he was coming back into the lane. Probably not fooling anybody except for maybe Valdez.
Yeah, I got fooled for sure.
You did, didn't you?
Who's Dr. Eggman?
You thought
Where'd he go? I thought he was in this game.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Did you see that that new Sonic movie?
No, I never got around to seeing it. I don't think anyone goes to the movie theaters here in Korea.
Yeah, you know that's true.
Either. I imagine, I believe that CGV is the name of the major movie theater chain here in South Korea, and I believe that they are reporting super low attendance throughout the entire country.
You know, maybe now is the time to go to the movies then. Because no one's there. You can have the whole theater to yourself.
You get lucky. You sit next to the one person. You sit down first in an empty theater. A person walks in, sits right next to you out of all the empty seats, and then
starts
they cough.
coughing. And then the Curb Your Enthusiasm song starts playing. Oh man. You know, I could actually no. Everybody here in Korea is ultra safe. I mean, everybody's
They are.
masks.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I mean, I don't leave my house anyway, so you know this whole virus I've been able to stay relatively safe because you know, Riot also set up the remote broadcast so we didn't have to leave the studio. And yeah, very safe, very healthy. Not and everybody that does have to go outside, they take all the necessary precautions. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody's, you know, covering their coughs or whatever. And it's been really nice here in Korea.
Yeah, Korea's been really on top of everything, but doing a very, very good job at handling it basically right out the gate. And
Yeah.
Corona, it is a really serious virus. It's actually, it makes me so upset actually when I see people downplay it, or they just say that it's not that serious or it's not a big deal. And it always confuses me when that ends up happening. But Korea doing a really fantastic job, as most people abide by all the government warnings and everything else that's sent out. So social distancing is a thing the government started recommending, I believe, last week. That started happening. People were advised not to go into work or take metro unless necessary. And other than that, everything's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Sort of like ganking top lane.
This is going to be pretty normal, I suppose. He doesn't have his flash, and it should be enough damage. The Cataclysm finally comes out. It's going to trap Flawless in here, but he's going for the kill. As is he even going to get it? I don't think he will, as Kana is going to put the missile straight into his face, as 2 kills will go the way of T1.
That's a really big victory for T1. Getting it on the Rumble, getting it on the Jarvan is really nice. And it's also happening at a timing where they're initiating a rotation to the Rift Herald. They're going to be able to get this, and they have plenty of time to convert this into turret plates and something meaningful. Rumble, he has Short Pen Boots and Oblivion Orb as his first 2 items, so he is dealing near true damage on some of the champions on the side of APK with that 33 magic penetration. And now Effort and Teddy are in close proximity to top lane. Rift Herald might just get summoned. Elam is right here with the Rift Herald. Not sure if he's actually just going to summon it right in Flawless and Ixu's face. That would be very surprising. Cover trying to move up to top lane right now, as Hybrid struggling to really push in this wave. And even when he does, Rumble is right there, almost has Equalizer. And they are not going to actually summon the Herald here. So maybe Jarvan's just going to run down to bottom and summon it there. As we just take a look at the replay, Equalizer comes out, and Kana able to just do so much damage as well. As it was a nice attempt, buy Flawless to try to trade 1-for-1 and then maybe look for a way out.
얘 되게 온다. 보자.
He says, let's try to do this.
잘만해. 거기
확인.
잡았다.
나이스. 렉사이 있고. 렉사이 노플, 렉사이 노플.
안 죽어, 나안 죽었네.
전령까지 바로 하자.
No flash.
렉사이 노플이야. 나이스.
Flash.
전령 시작 이거.
전령하자.
그러면 전령 시작 이거.
창동이 바텀.
Well, that was interesting. I noticed the chat box actually said 14 Rek'Sai, but it was written out completely.
Yeah,
Which
well,
is not something
I have to
I've
cut you off
seen
there.
before.
There's no dash, no flash. They're going in for this one. He is going to die. Faker baiting him into the fight, and then a rotation coming up from the bottom side. T1, once again, some really clean League of Legends today.
Well, Faker doing really good in mid lane. Now, everyone's in close proximity. They're gonna summon the Rift Herald. Most likely, when the turret plates fall. Is that gonna happen? No? Oh, yes,
Yep.
they are. Okay. So, Rift Herald deals true damage to the turret. You want to make sure that it hits the turret in one fell swoop and tries to give over all the plates. And then you get a second charge for it. But they don't end up actually getting it. But it's totally fine. The turret's on its last leg. It has a sliver of health remaining. And that should probably be Faker eventually picking up the final plate and the first turret gold, as 20 seconds until Infernal.
Yeah, sitting really pretty right now. Already 2,500 gold ahead. They've got their Rumble ahead with a ton of penetration up here on the top side. Ixu going to be catching up, trying to build into some magic resist to handle this guy. And then it feels like the Kalista, who's at a really clean, low action game, have a good time. You see the TP come in, and even though the root doesn't land, they still fall for the gang, and it all pans out.
Yeah. Azir doesn't have a way out, so Jarvan able to get in there. The roam from effort able to pay off as well on the Taric. He has the boots of swiftness, so he's able to run places as Infernal Dragon. Gonna go the way of T1. Kalista is gonna get 6 AD from it, so not quite a longsword. But obviously, she will get more items the longer that this game goes on. They get more base AD, things that are going to continue to ramp up. So, very nice dragon, and T1 is rolling beautifully on Drakes right now, as Mountain is going to be the third one. And even though their champions don't tend to build a lot of resistances, Nico does get Zhonya's Hourglass. Obviously, we have Tank Jarvan. Rumble as well can get Zhonya's Hourglass. Mountain isn't the best third Drake for them. I would actually probably say that it's probably Infernal, but it's still better than Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, anything's better than Cloud, so having a fun time with that so far. Faker showing off the GLP really nicely and just putting that on, that aggression. Oh no, who's stuck in here with who? Flawless runs straight into the Kalista. Really unfortunate timing for them. He's gonna flash, and you can see that effort just waits for it. Really making it look effortless, to be honest. Another kill, gonna go their way. And how about another one here? Cover, he's trying to run away, but still no flash. Even though he does get the double dash, it is not enough to get away, as T1 are making this game look really easy.
They are making this look completely one-sided, as Rumble is down here in the bot lane.
Kana's going for it. Oh no, it's not Kana.
Or was it?
Nice try there, actually, on the predict with the root.
Yeah.
They are going to get the flash out of Secret, and it is Ezreal. Either way, good rotation. And really, nothing negative to say so far this game about T1.
No, this is all panning out really well so far inside of this game. T1, 3 minutes now until the Mountain Dragon comes up, as APK, you can see Ixu trying to trade really hard on Kana, but there's no way to follow this up when you see that the other T1 members are still coming, and that's why he tried to turn around, but it ended up just being all too late, as Ixu eventually got dogged down as well by the Kalista. And right here, really good route by Faker. GLP 800 active coming out as well. And Azir, without a flash, basically had all of his options removed from him. And honestly, Cover is doing a really good job in the CS department. Really, all of the members on the side of APK are. It's just that they're really falling apart in terms of their overall management, and Flawless and Ixu just fall really far behind. Azir constantly just getting caught out, overextended inside of his lane a little bit too far, and a lot of good opportunity capture by T1 this game. And for a team that doesn't really get a lot going in the early stage, they managed to get quite a lot for themselves here.
Yeah, I mean, they're really dunking on them right now. Just every single fight is going their way. There really hasn't looked like any opportunity for APK to turn much outside of the Rek'Sai play up on the top side, but then once that goes wrong, that's when you know it's not going to be a fun game for the red team, to say the least. As Flawless going to be spotted here on the ward. That Mountain Drake coming up in a minute and a half. They are really just threatening Kana, saying get out of the lane. And he's actually going to listen just a bit until the Taric does come down. He's playing it extremely safe under turret.
Probably just waiting now 1 minute until the Mountain Dragon is going to end up coming up, and they'll pick that up probably right away, as it's going to be Twin Shadow's second item for Faker on the Neeko. This is the second time we've seen Neeko now, right? In the LCK.
Yep.
And very surprising to actually see her immediately getting picked up, because those buffs don't really stand out or scream like, yes, this is the timing to pick Neeko. But obviously, a lot of other mid lane champions over the last couple of months have been hit. Champions like Aurelia not really being seen inside of the meta, although she is making a resurgence inside of solo queue with the new Blade of the Ruined King, Wit's End build. And it's surprising that Neeko is coming out more and more often. More players also playing her now in solo queue, and because of her flexibility and the ability to itemize two different ways, 80 on hit as well as APK, it's an interesting champion choice, and it would be very refreshing to keep seeing new champions enter, because honestly, in round 1, before we moved into round 2, the meta in LCK in particular, it was getting very stale.
Yeah, I mean, we had just a lot of the same, and I'm glad that some patches are actually changing things up, keeping it fresh. Somehow you saw Teddy backing exactly there. Teddy had to slightly move over to the side. As we have entered this mid-game, this is one of those games where you've got one team that's really far ahead, and then the other team is just desperately trying to hold on, but they can't actually fight. So they just kind of push out lanes. They don't freeze. Why would you freeze? You just sit back. You're pushing lanes, and the enemy team is slowly getting dragons and objectives, and you just feel kind of helpless, not much you can do. So feels a little bit like that here for APK. They're not going to challenge the first Mountain Drake. Second one comes up in 4.5 minutes, and I don't know if they'll really have any ability to fight over that, but at the same time, they have to.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. One of the things that is underappreciated here is the level advantages that are assumed to be present once the game gets to that team fight is going to be there. Currently, as it stands, you have 1 level in top lane, 1 level in jungle, and you have 1 level in AD carry. Not sure how close effort is to leveling up. And mid lane is even, but base levels is something that's really underappreciated, I think, when it comes to LoL analysis, because it's not just the extra skill point. It's all the extra HP, the extra resistances, any little bit of base damage going up. And it's a very underappreciated stat, because sometimes base HP just allows you either access to tank extra turret shots that you shouldn't have been able to, or just outright absorb other skill shots, thus invalidating maybe one team's approach to a team fight. So 3.5 minutes. We assume that T1 should be at about 2.5 items across the board, where you can see that APK, they're struggling to get their second item.
They found Flawless here in the jungle. He's trying to get away. We got Kana up against Ixu on the side. He's going to miss the chains. And now Flawless in a bit of trouble as he's desperately trying to hit that plant. He is going to flash away. Missile's going to miss, and Ixu's all alone. Where's the rest of APK? Cover's just pushing, and they say, yeah, you got caught, we can't help you out. A 5-on-2 essentially, as the two of them will get cleaned up. And yeah, I mean, T1 just able to pick up a couple more kills just like that, made it look really easy. And I wanted to point out how well Kana was doing in the weak side of the map. He was playing it so passively. Just yesterday we saw Doran really struggling because he just kept on getting ganked over and over and over. And he wasn't respecting the ability for that gank to come out. So they're really offering nothing to APK in this game because of the way Kana is playing weak side. And now they're just going to go for the Baron here as Faker is on guard duties, desperately trying to survive here. He is going to have to flash right at the end as a steal. Can it come in? Waiting for that smite, waiting for it to get low enough, and it will go the way of T1 at the end. LM is going to have to flash over this wall as it doesn't look like anyone on the side of APK will be able to catch up.
Faker really likes that Rumble skin as he transforms back into Rumble.
WTF, 2 Rumbles?
As you can see Ixu trying to mess with Tarek. And I think that they're trying to gauge if Ixu's by himself.
Okay, they got the flash away. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is APK at an interesting time. Although I suppose the Baron timer will go down, but not so huge of a deal. TP in the mid lane, as so far, it is not a perfect game because the bottom tower did go down.
And that's exactly why I'm not impressed.
Okay.
I feel like T1 has a lot to improve on this game as they let that turret die. As here inside of this replay, Flawless, I mean, he just gets completely collapsed on by all of the members of T1. Equalizer does end up whiffing. Flash used by Kana eventually gets him with the harpoons. And Teddy is just Vlad the Impaler this game as he is rending everybody. As this Callista gonna have Bloodthirster soon, 50 seconds until the next Mountain Dragon, as I really appreciate production this time having the APK overlay.
They get
because we're getting to witness T1 playing Flash, and I really hope that the round 2 opponent is a little bit stronger.
This is just one-sided. I mean, there's not really much else to say about it. It's just they are rolling face over them. The APK are just like hanging out in their jungle. They think it's their jungle. It's not. You can't stand there. Oh, here comes triple Rumble. Oh, man. He funneled them up against the wall, and they're all going to get burned. I think this game is just going to end. That's going to be the end of that guy's life, and T1 are going to push to finish.
So this was an almost perfect game, Valdez. Even though Azir is coming up in 10 seconds, he doesn't have his ultimate available, I do think this is the end. Faker sending out his clone to try to tank any sort of aggro. Azir coming up in 2 seconds. 8 Aatrox spawn from the fountain. They might not even try. They're just going to focus down Nexus in what is one of the fastest games we've had in LCK in a very long time.
Yeah, absolute slaughter here. 14-0 in terms of kills. That was not close. And APK, we were, talking about how they're coming back, but I think up against T1, it's 2 different levels of League of Legends right now, especially with how clean T1 is playing nowadays.
Yeah. T1 had a very strong early and mid-game draft. The Azir was the real saving grace on the side of APK. Some other stuff did look a little bit off, but Elim coming out in his game number 1, doing super fantastic. I gave him the MVP vote. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I did. We both gave it to Elim. I mean, he was really clean, as you mentioned, and that's what I was talking about. Give him a champion that he's comfortable on. He looked really just pristine on the Jarvan. Knew exactly when to cast his Cataclysm, how to do the flag and drag flash knockup. Just really no mistakes from anyone on the side of T1. And that's why I've been so... I said this in the last POG state, how T1 has been the team that's impressed me the most. It's just because, yeah, I understand they're playing up against APK, and it is a bit one-sided in terms of the teams, but, like, they still make one-sided games look more clean than other teams, and they make, close games also look like clean victories. So definitely gives the good feels if you are a fan of good League of Legends, as we all are here.
And, I mean, after that game number 1, I am looking forward to game number 2, because I want to see some more goodness coming out. And can APK actually find anything to mix it up? Now, they started game 1 on red side, which should have meant they should have been able to respond to what T1 was doing, but instead, at the counter pick point of the draft phase, is actually when they let go of the advantages that they had in draft up until that point. Valdez, we extend it to now 11 out of 11.
11 out of 11 is the score. 100% for draft predictions for LS. Of course, starting yesterday, as this was the beginning of round 2 of the spring split. And we're looking to keep that streak going. I have to say that even the drafts for T1 have become better. Because, I mean, they were definitely one of the teams that they fit into that example that you used to give, where it was like a team that's really good and they would sometimes win even though they would lose draft just because they were so much better than other teams. But then they would sometimes struggle against good teams because they wouldn't draft well, and then they would just get, you know, outplayed when it came to facing off against good teams. And in this case, a good draft into a, of course, extremely solid victory, as we've mentioned many times.
And T1, if they can play like this in game number 2, I have no doubt that game number 2 will look exactly like game number 1. But we'll also see if APK has any substitutions. They do have other players that they have used throughout the majority, actually, of the split. They have actually had a lot of substitutes come in and out. Maybe Caney could come in for game number 2. Perhaps they'll throw in Trigger on AD Carry to try to do something. As taking a look at the post-game breakdown, the Nico didn't really do a whole bunch, but Faker did play very well, very stable. Teddy obviously on that Callista. I don't expect that it'll be allowed through the draft phase in game number 2, but we'll also see if Cuz is going to come in for game 2.
You know, I don't know. Maybe they will just give it over to Cuz, but Ellen had a fantastic game, so wouldn't mind